Good evening. Welcome to the Gresham-Barlow Board of Education, December 4th, a regular board business meeting. I'll call us to order, and I believe David Lukatich will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand if you so choose. This evening, we have in attendance the following board members: myself, Chris Hallett, another page here, Kathy Keithley, Vice Chair, Blake Peterson, Director, David Lukatich, Director, Holly Riegelman, Director, absent Dr. Myra Gomez, absent Dr. Sean Farns, and James Hughes, Superintendent. Dr. Gomez and Dr. Farns are at the Coastal Law Conference, so their absence is excused. With that, I'll take a motion to approve the meeting agenda. I don't know of any other changes or additions to it, so as presented. Okay.
I'll move to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
All right. Been moved by Blake, seconded by Holly to approve the meeting agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next up is as is our practice, we open with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land where Gresham-Barlow School District is located rests on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Walala, and bands of the Chinook, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous Native American families today. As settlers and guests on these lands, we respect the work of Native nations, leaders, and families, and make ongoing efforts to center Indigenous knowledge, creativity, resilience, and resistance. We consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us here today. We just finished November as being Indigenous Native American Alaska Native Month, and would continue to ask people to be mindful of the harm that was done and the work that we need to continue to do to keep this in the forefront as we move forward. Next up is public comment. And we did receive, I believe, one public comment. Ms. Avery, did we receive any others?
Just the one that was submitted in writing before the meeting.
Okay, all right. We did receive one in, sorry, it's in the other page here. We received one comment submitted earlier today, and I did not know whether or not, usually if it's submitted in writing, we don't necessarily have the person read it, but if you are in the audience, if you would like to read yours, please come down to the main aisle and we will turn on the microphone for that. Good evening. If you'd state your name for the record, please.
My name is Bill Martin. You guys fired me June 17th unjustly. I'll just read this. Dear extremely honest GBSD representatives, my wife Laura and I turned in bond fraud regarding the bond work at San Barlow High School during a meeting titled Hostile Work Environment at San Barlow High School in January of 2020. In March of 22, GBSD informed me and my wife, who also taught at San Barlow High School, that the district would only negotiate with us based on our resignation. We agreed to resign in March of 22. No one negotiated after that. Our termination was set for March 1st, 2023. The district pulled the termination and set mediation for separation 2.5 months later on May 10th of 23. On May 9th, the district informs us that they would now only mediate our return to work. The district completely changed its direction within less than 24 hours prior to mediation. That mediation was unsuccessful. April 3rd this year of 24, I wasn't allowed to make a comment about bond fraud that you folks haven't looked into. That's real and is there at Barlow. GVSD, you got to find out what went wrong at San Barlow, why it went wrong, how to make sure it doesn't happen ever again. These questions have to be answered before, GVSD moves forward to try to get more bond money from the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Hugh, I do realize that we have heard this information several times. And have you had an opportunity, either yourself or staff, to research these allegations and present them to the board as well?
I have. And we have consulted with legal counsel as well. And so we have that as well.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. Items in the consent agenda are approved with one motion. They include minutes from the special work session on November 6th, minutes from the regular business meeting on November 6th, minutes from the regular work session on November 20th, the monthly financial report as of October 31st, 2024, personnel report, employee contracts, policy updates. So unless there's any item that needs to be pulled from the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Been moved by Holly, seconded by Kathy to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. We have several recognitions tonight. This is always the fun part. And I believe someone is aware that we have some recognitions tonight. So our first one up is the San Barlow High School boys soccer, and our presenter is, well, looks like it's going to be Jason Barrett. All right, it had someone else's name, but come on down.
Thank you, Chair Howitt. In an effort to recognize students who achieve highly in school activities and academic programs, tonight the board has opportunity to recognize the conference level achievements of San Barlow High School boys soccer player. Maddie Callison Jr. scored 22 goals this season and was recognized by the Mount Hood Conference coaches as the Mount Hood Conference Offensive Player of the Year. Maddie was also named to the first team All-State soccer team. So congratulations, Maddie. Come on down. Next, in an effort to recognize students who achieve highly in school activities and academic programs, the board has the opportunity to recognize the conference level of achievement of the San Barlow High School volleyball team and their coach. For the 2024 season, Coach Lehal Pereira was recognized as the Mount Hood Conference Volleyball Co-Coach of the Year. Her team finished tied for second in the conference and went on to the second round of the playoffs, losing to South Salem High School. Addie Knight Sr. was recognized by the Mount Hood Conference coaches as the Mount Hood Conference Player of the Year. Addie also received statewide recognition as a first-team All-State volleyball player, and unfortunately is at West Salem tonight playing basketball. So she nor Coach Pereira are here tonight, but we recognize their accomplishments and wish Addie the best as she enters into basketball season. Finally, Sam Barlow Boys Water Polo Team recognizes students who achieve highly in school activities and academic programs. The board has the opportunity to recognize conference level achievements of the Sam Barlow High School boys water polo players. During the 2024 season, the boys water polo team placed first in the Mount Hood Conference and then brought home the third place state trophy. Levi Riegelman, senior, was recognized by the Mount Hood Conference coaches as the Mount Hood League Boys Water Polo Player of the Year and was also named first team All-State as a water polo player. So congratulations, Levi. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. This evening, we did have on the agenda our regularly scheduled update from the foundation. I believe that's been deferred to January, so that will go on to the January agenda. Let's see. We are up to updates, and I wanted to give a heads up to the association folks. We'll have updates from board members, updates from the superintendent, and then rather than going into recess, I was going to move you guys up because then we'll go into recess after you guys finish your association report. So at this point now, updates from board members. And I'll start down here with Mr. Peter.
I'll pass on reporting.
Okay, Mr. Ligatich.
No, this is actually my fun part. I got to do mock interviews over at Sam Barlow, and I think last meeting I was handed a big manila envelope, and it touched my heart. I've interviewed over 1,000 people in my 30-year career, and to interview those 5 students and then to get the letters I got was pretty awesome.
Director Riegelman.
Well, I didn't prepare anything, but I will give a congratulations to those 3 students who just were honored, one being my son, who I couldn't even convince to come. But I will also just say it's pretty cool to see those students being coached by some staff members in our district from very young to then in the high school level achieve what they did. And all 3 of those students were coached by teachers in our district. So that's just pretty cool to see the involvement that our teachers have in the lives of students. And I just wanted to recognize that.
I participated in the mock interviews as well, and it's always pretty exciting when you get to talk one-on-one with the students that we represent. You'll see on the agenda, I've submitted my resignation to the board because I'm taking office for the city council January 7th, but I will be on the board until December 31st. I guess it's been a pleasure working with all of you, district leadership staff, teachers, families, students. I think I hadn't thought about this at all, but what I would want you to leave with is helping kids find their passion, which we see in all the sports and all the extracurricular and the grades and even the mock interviews. But also how to keep empowering them for their own future. That's the most important thing we can do, because no matter what we do, they're going to get out into the real world and they're going to have to fend for themselves and succeed. And you're just having them find their passion. So congratulations to all of you and the work that you've done. And I'll still be around. So I'll probably stop in and give you my opinion as a non-board member.
Thank you. This room will seem very familiar to you, right? I also was able to attend and participate in the mock interviews. And David, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that teared up when I read the letters that I received from the students. They were actually listening when we did the interviews. And I was so pleased that I was able to come and take part in that. I also attended the Oregon School Boards Association convention that was held in November, which seems like it was so long ago, but it was just a couple of weeks ago. And I will be doing further updates on what we covered at that. One of the presentations that they did that I thought was especially interesting was about AI, artificial intelligence, and how they're using it in a positive way in schools, and also likening it to how far we've come in the last 25 or 30 years with just technology in general, going from having minimal stuff to having wonderful technology. And And so AI wasn't quite as scary as I thought it was going to be. I also wanted to bring up December. We do have a couple of things. December 2nd was Special Education Day as a recognition. And December, the month of, is also Universal Human Rights Month, talking about equality, justice, and dignity for all humans. And this was something that was put in place back in 1948 by the United Nations Declaration. We also have, as I've done at least the last couple of years, the various holidays and events that we get into with December. And I'm just going to go through a couple of them. They're not in date order because I was finding new ones as I went. Some of them sounded very interesting. A lot of celebrations for folks, a lot of celebrations around food and family. Bodhi Day, which is Buddha, Day of Enlightenment, is December 8th. Las Posadas, December 16th through the 24th, is the processional reenactment of Bethlehem journey with much food and family and entertainment. Christmas, December 25th. Hindu Katla Depan, December 6th, the Festival of Lights. It's December, there were a lot of lights festivals. Islam, first Fatimiyya, December 12th through the 14th. Human Light, which is humanism, on December 23rd, which is the vision of good fortune. Hanukkah, Judaism, which is also about lights, December 25th through January 2nd. The Yule solstice, December 21st through January 1st. Kwanzaa, December 26th through January 1st. And of the Baha'i faith, the Masail, which is December 11th to question, and December 30th, the Sharif to offer honor. So these were some of the various activities that are going on in our communities, and we encourage and support all of our families as they enjoy their time together in December. Next up, we have an update from the superintendent and district leadership. Do you want them to go first? You want the association to go first? All right, association. So we'll have them.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Howitt and fellow board members for allowing GBA to communicate the ongoing needs of our members and our students. GBEA, would like to recognize the 20-year or the many years, I believe it's 20, of service that Superintendent Hugh has dedicated to the Gresham-Barlow School District as a building administrator, HR director, and superintendent. We wish him well in his retirement. Tonight I'm following up on the changes that have happened in our special education department and our continued need for more staff that work directly with students. The IST team of IEP writers are not helping draft IEPs this year and have been put in more of a support and compliance role. This transition does nothing to relieve the amount of work special ed staff are dealing with, which puts another barrier in meeting the increasingly intensive needs of students on IEPs. A reminder that when the special ed model was changed to create the IST team, the positions were taken from behavior support teachers that were in all of our buildings. And with this program transition, the behavior support teachers have not been put back into buildings. And currently the IST members are not working directly with students. The board has heard from numerous special ed and general ed teachers that there is not enough staff working directly with students, coinciding with a significant increase in disruptive and unsafe student behaviors in the last 5 years. It seems that the board and district administrators feel that students are back to normal as they were before the pandemic, even though you have heard from many of us that the impacts of the pandemic continue with more intensive student behaviors, mental health needs, and disrupted learning happening in buildings across our district. When will the board and district admin listen to the educators working directly with students every day and do the work to have a shared reality about the barriers to meeting the increased student needs? We have seen the consequences of the board and district ignoring our concerns over the last couple of years play out at Gresham High School. There is a focus that has been articulated by the governor to get appropriate funding for K-12 schools. In her proposed budget, Governor Kotek has asked for $11.36 billion for K-12 schools. That is more than a 10% increase from the last biennium. The corporate kicker will also provide over $1 billion to K-12 schools. We also have the student investment account, over $10 million last year, that we would argue is not being used the way that the legislation intended. Increased staff are not being hired to support the student populations listed in the legislation. Special ed students, EML students, students that are in foster care or homeless. We do not see the genuine gathering of input from staff and community members that is part of the SSA legislation. We believe if the district gathered genuine feedback from parents, that they would want that account to be used to hire teachers and staff that work directly with their students, not combined with other grants as the district has done. Now is the time to truly invest in supporting students and stop carrying over millions of dollars that could be used to hire staff that work directly with students. We do not need more instructional coaches, district admin, or HR staff. We need more counselors in buildings, more SPED staff, behavior support teachers, and smaller class sizes and caseloads in order to support students with problematic behaviors, socio-emotional social skill deficits, and mental health needs, so that students are able to access academic instruction and make meaningful gains in math and reading. GBEA members are asking the board and GBSD to look at how it's spending taxpayer dollars and change the culture to make investments now that will positively impact the future of our students and our community. Thank you.
Tia, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Howitt, fellow members of the board, Superintendent Mr. Hugh. OSCA Chapter 8 will be celebrating its members on Wednesday, December 18th at 3:30 at Hellfire Pizza, formerly known as The Rock. Board members are welcome to drop in and visit with us. We'll have appetizers, games, and prizes. And lastly, it is really hard to believe that this is the last time we will have a board meeting with Superintendent Mr. Hugh. You will be missed. It has truly been a pleasure to have worked closely with you over the years in various ways, and we value the relationships that have been built and wish you the very best in retirement with your lovely wife, who is here.
All right, thank you. And I believe at this point, before we go on our break, I just wanted to do a brief statement to the, oh, you want to do your thing? You want me to do my thing? I'm gonna do my thing. Okay. Mahalo omekai hoekai palikana. Thank you and safe journey. Thank you for your tremendous support and service to our students, our schools, our staff, and our community. In everything you did, you kept the well-being of others at the forefront of the decision-making process. The work was not easy and at times very difficult, but the cost of not doing that work cannot be imagined. I look forward to working with you in the future, continuing to do what's best for our students and our community. Mahalo a ikai hua keu.
Okay, good evening, members of the board, colleagues, and community members. Thank you in advance for the professional courtesy as I may go a bit longer in sharing my final superintendent's update this evening. 6 short months ago, I shared that I would be retiring as superintendent of schools on December 31st, 2024. Tonight is my final board business meeting. How quickly the past 6 months have gone. I am filled with gratitude and appreciation. It's hard to believe that the time has come to close this chapter of my career and transition to the next phase of my life, retirement. But before I do, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to those who have been instrumental in this journey. To former Superintendent Ken Noah, he gave me the opportunity to come to the Gresham-Barlow School District 22 years ago. Thank you. To our 7 board members of the Gresham-Barlow School District, Chair, Chris Howard, Vice Chair Kathy Keithley, Director Blake Peterson, Director Holly Riggleman, Director David Lipitich, and Directors Dr. Meyer Gomez and Dr. Sean Farns, who both were not able to be here tonight because they're also education leaders attending the Coastal Law Conference in Eugene. Thank you, Board of Education, for your partnership and belief in my leadership. Your support has been the backbone of many successes, and I'm truly honored to have worked alongside each of you. You have allowed me the privilege of serving our students, families, and this incredible community. And for that, I am eternally grateful. To my colleagues, almost 1,200 classified, licensed, and administrative staff, thank you. You're my everyday heroes for our students. You are the heart and soul of this school district. Your dedication to our students and to one another have been nothing short of inspiring. Whether in the classroom, in offices, or on the field or in our theaters, each of you have contributed to creating an environment where all students can grow, thrive, and find success. Collectively, we have paved the way for a bright future for the Gresham-Barlow School District schools and have leaned into this work to ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed. And I couldn't be more proud of the work we've accomplished together. Special shout out to the district leadership team, members of our cabinet, instructional leadership team, and executive leadership team for your staunch leadership during my tenure as superintendent. I am grateful for your expertise, commitment to students, staff, and our community. Your self-efficacy, collegiality, and professionalism have allowed for a high-functioning and dynamic leadership team who has served with grace and excellence. Thank you, team. I want to take a moment to publicly thank my much better half, Joni, who's in the audience, my partner for the past 25 years, for your unwavering support throughout this journey. I'm not sure she's going to know what to do with me at home, but Joni, I could not have done this work without your love and support. We've raised two beautiful children together, and your encouragement has been a constant reminder of the importance of family and balance. As I step into this next chapter of life, I look forward to slowing down a bit, traveling more, and continuing to build a strong foundation we've created together for our kids, Kingo and Melanie. Finally, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our students. You have always been my North Star, my why. I am proud of your passion, resilience, and grit. Keep lifting your voices and advocate for a better tomorrow. You are the future leaders of our community, and watching you grow and learn and develop has been the most fulfilling part of this work. I'm confident that you will continue to make a positive impact on this world, and I'm excited to see where your journeys take you. As I reflect on my time in the district, over 22 years, I'm filled with pride for all that we've accomplished and hope for the future. But there is still much work to do. We all have the ability to positively influence student learning and outcomes. My journey in public education spans almost 34 years in Portland, in North Clackamas, and the Gresham-Barlow School District, and it has been an incredibly rewarding journey. And I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had to serve the students, families, and staff within our vibrant community. Throughout my tenure, I have witnessed the transformative power of public education and the profound impact that it has on shaping lives. It has been a privilege to play a role in fostering academic excellence, cultivating supportive learning environments, and empowering our schools to reach their full potential. Thank you all for your trust, your commitment, and your passion for education. I'm excited for what comes next, but will always carry the memories and experiences from this incredible journey with me. And finally, I want to share a quote by Theodore Roosevelt. And just fun fact, I actually graduated from Roosevelt High School in Honolulu in 1985, a young 17-year-old feeling like I could change the world. But I want to read an excerpt from, it's called A Man in the Arena, a speech that was delivered on April 23rd in 1910 in Paris. The quote is widely known and often cited to emphasize the value of effort, perseverance, and personal courage, especially in the face of criticism or failure, which I would liken to public education. In the 21st century public school education systems, we have navigated the remarkable journey, one filled with resilience, innovation, and dedication to the well-being and academic success of our students. So here's the Here's the quote. "It is not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong person stumbles, or whether the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends themselves in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fails while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never knew victory nor defeat." This passage capsulizes Roosevelt's celebration of those who engage fully in life and work, who face challenges head on, and who dares to fail in the pursuit of something greater than themselves. This is actually dedicated to our colleagues that have chosen public education and continues to keep themselves in the arena for our students. 22 years ago, I came to the Gresham-Barlow School District with a strong work ethic and integrity. And today, I'm happy to say that I'll be leaving the district with that same strong work ethic and integrity. Thank you, Team GBSD. I wish you well.
And on that, I think we're going to take a 10-minute, 15-minute, 10-minute break. 10-minute recess. All right, 10-minute recess. Good evening. We're back to Gresham-Barlow Board of Education, December 4th, business meeting. Next up on the agenda are minutes from the meetings, Policy Review Committee minutes, September 27th, Interim Superintendent Search Committee minutes, October 23rd, Policy Review minutes, October 25th, and the District Equity Committee meeting minutes, November 4th. Those are strictly for information only. We've already had the association reports from our GBEA, Gresham-Barlow Education Association, and our Oregon School Employees Association. We come up next to action items. We have 3 action items that are around Oregon School Boards Association. Actually, we have 5 on that one. One from the City of Gresham, and then acceptance of a letter from a board member, as was referenced earlier today. So the first one up is the OSBA resolutions, and that does have my name on it as board chair. So I'll just do a little bit of a lead in for that. OSBA, we represent or we elect our representatives from Multnomah County. We have 3 positions in the region. The positions alternate which ones are open and which ones are not. My position is currently not open. So we have 2 positions that are open. We have 2 candidates that are running for each of the position. Position 17, Katrina Dowdy is running from the MESD. She's been on the board for several years. I think this is her second, maybe third term, second term at least. And then Jose Gamero, I don't remember how to pronounce his last name, Jorgensen, to position 19. He is newly elected to the newly appointed to the David Douglas School District Board. He's been on their board for about 6 months, and I had a lot of opportunity to speak with him at convention, and was very pleased with his enthusiasm and what it is that he wants to do moving forward and stepping up to be on the OSBA board. So that is our first item of business, is the 2 folks. And then we also have several resolutions, and one of them is around an adjustment in OSBA dues. One of them is adding another caucus. We currently have the Board Member of Color Caucus as well as the Small Rural Schools Caucus. This would be adding one more caucus, and I can go into a little bit of how we determine whether or not a caucus becomes a caucus. And then there is a bylaws amendment that cleans up some of the bylaws, changes a little, clarifies the language, moves the Pride Caucus into the bylaws, and just kind of straightens out some things. And that process of working on the bylaws has been ongoing for approximately a year and has been crossed over with the policy conversation as well. I'm on the OSBA Policy Committee, so we've also had a lot of conversation with the Bylaws Committee, the Policy Committee, and the Governance Committee, trying to just do some real serious cleanup that we've had as the organization grew over the last 10 or 15 years. So any general questions? We'll just kind of maybe start with the elections of the folks. Their resumes, their information was in the packet. And like I said, I know Katrina very well, and I was able to meet and have conversation with Jose. So we have motions that we need to do. To start with, to elect to the Board of Directors. Can do. Yes, we can. We can. We do not have to. If we don't have representation from Multnomah County for those positions, and then they would be appointed by the board at a future date. So whether we elect them now or whether or not OSBA appoints them when we come up to our next meeting. So Katrina Dowdy is the one that is running for position 17. And she's a board member from the Multnomah ESD. And I don't usually, as chair, like to make a motion, but I would move to elect Katrina Dowdy to the OSBA Board of Directors, position 17. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Chris, seconded by David, to elect Katrina Dowdy to the OSBA Board of Directors, position 17. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. And I didn't hear any opposed. I heard all positive, so thank you. Next, I would move to elect Jose Gamero Georgeson to the OSBA Board of Directors, position 19. Is there a second? Second. Was that? Okay, thank you. It's been moved by Chris, seconded by Kathy to elect Jose Gamero Georgeson to the OSBA Board of Directors, position 19. Is there any discussion or questions about Jose? I will admit that he's new on his board, but he did go to convention. I did see him at a number of the things. He also has been very excited to be a part of this boardsmanship. So no other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. You know, I want to do these out of order, but move to adopt resolution 1, which amends the OSBA dues schedule. And I'm not making the motion, I'm stating what the motion would be. So resolution 1 amends the OSBA dues schedule. The OSBA dues have not changed for approximately 20 years and were in need of updating. They had the salaries or the salary schedule. The dues schedule was very outdated with the amount of services that OSBA provides and just as general membership. And it does move it up somewhat substantially. The first year is a 15% increase, and then there are smaller increases over the next several years to get them up to a firmer footing on what they're doing. OSBA does have an endowment that is fairly safely invested. It doesn't have to be at the super safe like a school district does. However, it's not speculative and it has been a very solid source of resources for OSBA for a number of years. I remember when that went into place, and we protect that fund carefully so that the money stays there. We don't dip into the principle of that. And however, it's had its ups and downs as far as investments go, but it's been a steady source of money for us. So you can see on the chart, there's a chart on the second page of the resolution explanation. And yes, go ahead, David. Yeah, go ahead.
When does this board affirm our membership with OSBA? Because I'm not opposed to the dues increasing. I am opposed to locking into a perpetual agreement that the board never sees again.
I'm not sure about that, Sarah. I don't know when we actually,
It's usually in August when we get for the new school year, when they start sending out the membership dues invoices.
But that's just paid by district admin, and we don't really see that. And I'm just wondering if it should become a more recurring business item, similar to how we affirm ESD levels of service. Because just for public, it's in the public record, but this raises, our current dues as a district over 10,000 enrollment is $10,823. 5 years from now, 6 years from now, we're looking at $22,000. So we're over doubling our dues. We receive a level of service that would be much higher if we were to try to do it in-house. And so again, I'm not opposed. I'm just opposed to the principle of doing it in perpetuity for a future board to not ever see that as an option.
so did you have a comment on that? Because then I have a question for the superintendent. Okay, I don't recall that we have ever actually voted on any components of that. The services that we receive from OSBA are around policy is a big part. It's connected with our property and casualty insurance, and there are other components, our legal, our legal support that we get. And so I'm not quite sure. We've just been members. And so Superintendent Hugh, if you have, I hate to put you on the spot like that, but I'm not really sure. It's just, we've always been members because we get the services that we get, so we pay for the membership.
So that, excuse me, that is my understanding that we, since you as a school board choose to belong to OSBA, we pay certain fees that are part of being part of Oregon School Boards Association. There are some additional fees, extended fees for services like board policy. There are additional fees for legal. There are some things that are part of our membership, or I should say the board's membership with Oregon School Boards Association, but there are some additional fees that are included as well. But similar to professional organizations like I belong to the Coalition of Oregon School Administrators, as well as many of our colleagues in this room. Those are individual memberships that you can choose to participate or not participate.
So to the point that Blake made, particularly, I think, because in light of the increase from 10,000 to in 6 years, 21,000 and doubling it, there isn't any, other than staff time, unfunded mandate, again, I'm going to do this. There's no reason not to annually evaluate the services that we get for this membership. And, I know that we get the policy stuff. When we have OSBA out to do a training, we pay extra for that. I mean, this would be the base rate. So then we'd have to really technically look at what we're adding. And it's a transparent communication to the public that says that we affirm the value of this membership. It's just an exercise in transparency from, I would absolutely advocate doing that. Just for the sake of being transparent.
And I would only add to that, the reason, 4 years ago, I might not have even thought, but we're within about a calendar year of OSBA's board, possibly not really necessarily representing our interests, well, whether they did or not, but former executive director resigned abruptly. It's an organization that has to provide a commensurate level of service. And I just think that evaluation is a worthy process. But that said, I'm happy to make a motion if that's what we're waiting on.
The only caveat that I would put with that, and perhaps not necessarily doing it on an annual basis, but a biannual basis, because it could, if we do get a number of services, and I understand the part of making sure that we know what we're getting, we know what we're paying for, looking at it every year could have well, are we going to get it? Are we not going to get it? How do we make sure that there's resources available if we say we're going to get it? So on a 2-year cycle for the volume of what we get and for what we're doing with it, would just feel better. But I think having some kind of review could make sense with that, and just that membership affirmation. Does that kind of fit language a little bit? Make the motion.
Yeah, I move to approve OSBA Resolution 1 that amends OSBA dues schedule.
All right, so it's been moved by Blake, seconded by David, to adopt Resolution 1, which amends the OSBA dues schedule. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. All right, show that is unanimous. Next up is Resolution 2, which creates the Oregon School Board Members Pride Caucus and designates a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. We currently have 2 other caucuses, like I mentioned. We have the Board Member of Color Caucus and the Rural Schools Caucus. The manner in which a caucus is brought forward to OSBA, they bring forward first a plan or idea of what it is that they want to the OSBA board. They do an exploratory committee to see whether or not there is interest in that. They then spend a year making sure that they have support, that it's something that they can provide some actual service for. What would the cost be for it? Is it affordable? And so they have spent the year also working on what the bylaws would be, how it would come about. And so that's the same process that we did with the Board Member of Color Caucus, which I believe has been in place now for 5 or 6 years, no, more than that, maybe about 5 or 6 years. Yeah. maybe a little bit longer, but then the Rural Schools Caucus has been on for just a couple of years. And then the Pride Caucus has been talked about for a couple of years, and finally was able to get together a committee to do the full research and make sure that their bylaws were good. We've gotten much better at writing bylaws for the caucuses. So any general questions about the Pride Caucus? Make a motion. I would move to adopt Resolution 2, which creates the Oregon School Board Members Pride Caucus and designates a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. So it's been moved by Board Chair Chris, seconded by Director Peters.
I'm very unlikely to be supportive of this because the whole caucus idea is a really strange way to govern. I mean, this is an additional seat outside of a democratically elected process that has voter intention, operates by its own set of bylaws. I've been apprehensive about every one of these caucuses because it seems undemocratic to me. And I will be opposed to this one.
Other discussion? I will say that that question has been brought up to the OSBA board as well. How many caucuses can we support? What does it mean if we wind up being fractured through caucuses? Part of how they started doing this was they were following the NSBA model, and NSBA has actually been changing their model a little bit. This caucus has gone through the process with the rest of them. And I do think that there's probably room to have conversation about what is the role of the caucus and how does it effectively represent and support its members without adding additional cost and resources to the OSBA Board of Directors. And we worked hard. I will say we worked hard back in the day to make sure that we had the regional representation. Prior to that, we had just seats on the board that you were elected at convention. And so there was no local, it wasn't done by the boards. It was done if you went to convention. That's how I got on the first time, was I was at convention and was elected by who knows who, but it wasn't by Multnomah County. So it was by the folks that showed up. It was by the folks that showed up.
Well, just to talk about procedurally, does every school board in the state have to approve it before it's enacted? If not all of them do, it wouldn't be?
Right. That is correct. Each board has a single vote on it. It's a majority.
That's what I was saying. It's a majority. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not, if one board doesn't, then it doesn't pass. It's the majority.
I share the similar concerns that how many caucuses can we support? And I recognize the work that this group has done and wants to continue to do. It did not seem fair to stop after they had done their year's worth of work to then say we aren't going to add any more caucuses after we did not ask the same questions of the I keep wanting to call it secure rural schools, the rural schools, as well as the board member of color caucus. And we learned some of the things from when we put the board member of color caucus in, cleaned up the bylaws, made it better for the rural. But again, how many more do we add? So yes.
To that point, I'd have to say, at some point when, I mean, you have to really look at what the procedural problems are that are prevent the support that you're looking for. And it takes maybe a vote like this for them to say, okay, maybe we really need to rethink this. Because at some point, if it's not the first one, and you do the second one because you did the first one, and then you do the third or the fourth because you do the first one, then you've got a bigger problem. So I hope that they do go back and look at what the procedural issue is so that there isn't one group that's targeted that should or shouldn't be. It's not the basis of the group, it's the basis of the procedures, the process.
And I would just add, I remember I was a brand new board member, but I remember members of this board having very similar concerns at the first caucus over that ended up being a little bit realized over the bylaws issues. So yeah, it's
Okay, so I show that that one fails. And then on to the next one, Resolution 3, which adopts the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws. Most of that was cleaning up. It does include in the bylaws reference to the Pride Caucus. Regardless of our vote on the Pride Caucus, it will depend on what the vote is across the rest of the school districts in it. So that portion of the bylaw would still stay. If there is no Pride Caucus, then that would go away. So Resolution 3 is updating and accepting the recommendations. And like I said, this one went through quite a long revision and review to get it cleaned up.
I have a question in case you happen to know. So there's language in here that says whereas, and this is related to our last conversation. Whereas the substantive changes to the draft OSBA bylaws are the following. And the first bullet is allowing caucuses to have an additional director on the board of directors in the circumstance where the president or immediate president is a director from a caucus. So now is that 2 seats for a caucus?
It's the same way that it is when, for instance, we have right now, our current incoming president is from one of the regions that only has one OSBA member in it. Multnomah County has 3, some of the others have. So while she's president, there is a second person who comes on during the term of her presidency. If
Does
someone,
have a vote?
what?
Does the president have a vote?
Yeah.
I'm struggling to understand the reason.
It was a labor issue. It was the person who is the president is doing statewide issues versus not necessarily doing their region. So the person who is the backup is still nominated and elected from their region, serves only during the time that the person is the president. So as soon as they're not the president anymore, that person drops off of the board. It's not a new position that stays on there after the person is no longer the president. Well, and that's been practiced for at least the last 10 years. Only because it's adding the new caucus. It's adding the language that if the person from the caucus, because we did that.
That's not what the language says.
No, it's
Okay.
clarifying what you are describing, I think is what this is addressing. So you're saying past practices for regionally elected folks who then serve as president to have an additional seat, which I have discomfort with that, to be clear. Now it's applying that same rule to the caucuses. And
Beyond that point, because that's a concern, it feels a bit disjointed to approve bylaws changes for something that we don't know yet will pass. So is there, I mean, wouldn't it be prudent to wait until we see, what the result is of the new caucus before we approve bylaws? I mean, only probably particularly because we just did not pass it.
Our board did not pass it, 196 once, but
Granted.
here's where the issue is. The bylaws to be changed have to be voted on by the entire membership, by the boards. So if it's not in here, the caucus doesn't get approved, then we would have to come back and have, it's just, this is, it's language in place. If there's no caucus, then it doesn't happen. If there is a caucus and this didn't get approved,
But then we approve it as soon as we know about the caucus. It feels
we
like,
have to come back through the whole cycle again. Every board would have to vote on it again. Not just our board.
and we're approving bylaws that we don't know whether it's all pertinent language. That's my point. Because if it doesn't get approved, we have to change the bylaws anyway. They're not approved officially as presented. Does that make sense?
It does. However, it's a matter of if there's no caucus, then that doesn't kick in. If there is a caucus, I doubt if it doesn't pass, I don't think they'll stop trying to get one. Sorry.
It's just like when you approve a contract. The contractual language of the contract approved is what is, what you rule by.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it just seems, I mean, I'm sure it will pass. I'm sure there will be fine, but it also just seems a little weird that we're going to pass. It seems procedurally that you pass language, but if it doesn't affect it, then you just don't abide by it. Well, then why is it in the contract or the bylaws that we just approved? The bylaws, it seems to be, would need to be very specific and accurate.
Does it specifically say, it doesn't specifically say anything about the Pride Caucus, actually. What it's talking about is just director from a caucus. So we do have 2 other caucuses. And this kicks,
The sections it says.
sorry, I'm not reading that.
Yeah, under section 3.5.
Sorry.
The actual, I mean, again, this was just procedural, so I'm.
Right. Well, I want to make sure that I understand it as well.
I guess the question would be is if it didn't pass, would they have to do an amendment to this and it would come back anyways for a vote?
Probably, yes.
So either way.
Yeah. We do have a motion, was made by Chris, seconded by Blake, to adopt resolution 3, which adopts the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws. Yeah, no, I had it written down too far down. So we do not have, sorry, we had a lot of conversation for something we didn't have a motion for, my bad. So we do not have a motion to adopt resolution 3, which is the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaw.
I'll make a motion again just to have the discussion, but I'll move to adopt OSBA Resolution 3 amendments to the OSBA bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had looked at that as we'd already had a motion on it. So, so is there further discussion about it? I understand, and I'm not sure where it is that you're looking at, Blake, on,
So in the
Is there a
attachment,
page on
the
it?
OSBA bylaws final crosswalk, it's
okay.
under section
Okay, all right, let me go to the
3.5.
crosswalk, let me go to the crosswalk. Okay. And it's under 3.5. Okay. Sorry, I keep turning my microphone off. Because it says that it will be comprised of up to 22 regionally. And so whether or not the caucus goes in or not, if it doesn't go in, then it's up to well, let's see.
I will say that regardless of that procedural issue, I have issues with it for the same reasons that I just expressed. It's doubling down on the very reason why I have reticence over the idea of caucus seats. So.
All right. Is there any further question about doing the bylaws? Okay. Voice vote. So, Blake. I'll go next. I'm in favor of it. Like Chris, Kathy.
No.
All right, Holly. David. Okay, all right, that fails also. All right, good conversation. Thank you. We will take that back to OSBA and let them know. So what we have right now, just to go back over them to make sure I got everything right and make sure that Sarah has it right. We did approve electing Katrina Dowdy from the MESD to the OSBA Board of Directors, position 17. We did approve the election of Jose Gamero Jordson to the OSBA Board of Directors, position 19. Now I don't have on here what we did on resolution 1. Did we do that? I didn't mark down the yeses and nos. Did we get that one approved? That I didn't do a voice vote on that one. And then resolution 2, which created the Oregon School Board Association Members Pride Caucus, failed 4-1. And then, well, I abstained. Yeah, so it failed by 4 votes for 4. And then resolution 3, which adopts proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws, that one went down 4-1. I voted yes on that one. Yes, Kathy.
Just a quick question on the dues. We talked about doing a biennium review of the OSBA contract. So is that just an assumption that now it's part of the discussion, or do we need to put it in officially somewhere that the board's asking that be done? I don't know.
For what it's worth, since I was just voicing it for advisement on a practice going forward. It wasn't to put anything, to codify anything.
So would that be, because that would be something more along the lines of any other contractor review that we do for the MESD. So whether or not we put that in the minutes, Sarah, if that goes to the superintendent, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a motion, because we don't do a motion on how frequently we do other things. So I'm not quite sure. Help me understand.
Well, my yes vote was based on the fact that we do a review every biennial. And we said
Okay.
every year, no, how about every 2 years? Yes.
Right, every 2 years.
I mean-
And then I don't know where we put that into our practice and procedure.
And that was my question.
And that's my question as well, because I don't know if we do a motion to that. It doesn't feel right to do that.
It feels like we would just add it on like MESD and put it on our board calendar to come up for whatever month is best.
Are you waiting on that a little bit?
In July.
So how do we make sure that we're going to remember to do that? I think, is that your question, Kathy? How do we make sure that we remember to do it? Yeah. So is somebody taking some good notes on that when we get to July, that we'll review?
And I don't know if it's July, it might be the September, because I'm trying to think of when those invoices come. Like usually we typically get them around, mid-August into September sometimes. So maybe it would be the September meeting that we would review, like, here's the invoices that came in for OSBA. Do we review the membership then and what services we're getting before we opt to renew or pay those? I don't know.
Yeah, because that feels like that's too late. That's already, we've got an invoice for something they expect us to get.
Yeah, but is it July? When do we approve all the attorney of record? So what I would just say, it should be stacked because we already know the fees for the following year. We already know what invoice is coming. So, but I don't know if that's a legally binding.
And just having that review of what it is that we're getting for those services. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Feel like we should take another recess. We used our recess up too soon. All right. All right, let me get back on track here. Oh, good. Did you have something you were gonna? You're next. Yes, you are next. Okay, so next up is the City of Gresham Enterprise Zone School Support Fees, second reading, Superintendent Hugh.
Thank you, Chair Howitt. Enterprise zones are an economic development tool used in local government to incentivize investment via temporary property tax abatement. House Bill 2009, voted on in 2023, modified the enterprise zone program to allow school districts to recoup a portion of the abated property tax revenues by setting a school support fee rate to apply in years 4 and 5 of any new or extended enterprise zone agreements. Local governments can no longer offer an extended abatement without a school support fee set by the overlapping school district. So there were two presentations, one in October and one in November, where we had representation from the city of Gresham, and we had Stacy Michelson, our governmental liaison from MESD, who was there to answer questions and provide some clarity. So this is a second read. And so I would recommend that the board move to ratify the resolution setting the Gresham Enterprise Zone support fee as presented. And just so we are clear on what that looks like, it's 15%. And we would then, once you approve that rate, then you would be directing the superintendent to then negotiate the actual agreement with the city, whether it's going to be for us to collect the fees or them to collect the fees regarding that 1%. But remember when we spoke, the monies that we don't collect from this portion, the state would equalize that out of our state school fund. So I guess before I ask for the board to take action, if you have any questions of me at this point.
I just have one statement, and I'll clarify that I'm understanding correctly because I wasn't at the previous work session. In regards to the 1%, we are getting, there's a way that that doesn't come out of our school fund. But it's my understanding that that's only if the city does the collecting. So if we did our own collecting, we would be on the hook for that 1%. Is that correct? If that's the case, I guess I would just recommend that we have the city do that so that there is a way that that doesn't come out of our school fund.
Yeah, and I would say that either way, if we collect it and we don't have to pay the city to do that, we still get the same monies from the state because it equalizes what we don't necessarily get in our state school fund. So it doesn't necessarily cost us if we allow the city to do it. My biggest concern and what I shared with you as a board is I don't know how many enterprise zone agreements we'd be entertaining. Therefore, we're not of the mindset as a collections agent. And we would be asking our business services team to actually put out accounts payable to bill these folks. And so again, right now, I think there could be one or two, but depending on the growth in the city, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be more time and work on our staff. So that's where it was somewhat unknown. But I think either way, if you can agree on the rate of 15%, I think we can go ahead and negotiate and go into an agreement with the city as far as that 1%.
Are there any other general questions? Okay. Yeah, Dave.
No, I was going to do a motion. I think it's a great plan. I move to ratify the resolution setting the Gresham Enterprise Zone School support fee as presented.
So clarification, as presented, it says that it's at least 15 and not more than 30. So I believe that we would need an amendment.
In the resolution.
Is it? No, it's not. It says 15 to 30. So
Then it's be it therefore resolved.
where is it at?
Be it.
Oh, there it is at the bottom.
Sentence.
Thank you. Okay, I was getting caught up at the top. Thank you. I knew I'd seen it. I couldn't remember where. All right. So we have a motion to ratify the resolution setting the Gresham Enterprise Zone school support fee as presented in the resolution, which shows 15%. Yep, absolutely.
And this is mainly for public consumption because I realize all this discussion happened in work sessions that you might not have attended, all 5 of you that are still watching. So this is a city can provide an enterprise zone, which is a tax abatement to an employer in certain designated areas for 5 years. If we don't pass this, then they can only offer that for 3 years. That affects Gresham because they receive a community support fee in years 4 and 5 of that abatement. Legislature, in spite of public opposition, decided in its wisdom to pass this anyway, where schools become the collection agents of record. And so we're trying to creatively partner with the city, which is a common practice across the state because of that legislation, to try to collect this fee that does not actually come locally. It goes into the state school fund pot. So whether we passed it 15 or 30, that doesn't make a cent of difference to our community. All it makes is a difference of economic impact and attractiveness to prospective large businesses or employers. So with that, I'm in support of that.
Okay, and I think also our neighboring districts also did the same 15%. Okay, all right.
Well, I was going to do exactly that, Blake, for public consumption. And the only things that I would add is that it was, as Superintendent Hugh just alluded to, that we would have had to even collect the fee. And so it seems this is a city enterprise zone. They collect the fees, and the school district has been brought in again by the legislature. But there is some support mechanisms that we get, which is if a business is part of this enterprise zone, stays and develops, then that potentially is job opportunities for a student. So there is some connection. But the conversation that the board had was in regards to that 1%, that now we're doing something for the city and we're going to pay 1%. So the board researched and asked for confirmation that even though we have to pay the 1%, that the school fund will be made whole and that we will not be out. We don't lose money to do this for the city. So I just want to clarify that.
So we have a motion. Sorry, I gotta get back to that page. No. Sorry. There we go. We have a motion to ratify the resolution setting the Gresham Enterprise Zone school support fee at 15%. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, next up is a letter. It's a letter. Yeah, but then she can't do the city council stuff, then you can't do that. All right, okay, all right. So we have received this evening the letter of resignation from Vice Chair Kathy Keithley as a result of the positive election that she had to join the Gresham City Council. It's a letter of resignation from position 3, zone 2 of the Gresham-Barlow School District Board of Directors, which would be effective December 31st, 2024, and then declares the position vacant. And it's been fun. It's been a ride. It's been a ride. I think I have the word transparency tattooed on my arm. It's not very transparent anymore. We weren't going to do this as a roast, but if anyone else would like to say anything in kind regard to Kathy's work in support of our board and our partnership that I'm expecting to continue as you move into the council, you will have a voice for us there, which will be very exciting. So.
I think Kathy, you know, I've known you outside of the school board before I even came to the school board, and your last campaign and helping you run it, and your passion for city council and your passion for the city of Gresham. But now that I've got a chance to actually work with you and to watch you read every word and write every word note and dig into everything, I have a high respect for you on that. And it's been great. I know this is what you want, so it's going to be an easy yes for me.
All right, so this is an action item. Blake, you have comment, question, action?
No, I'm gonna work hard to not put all the adjectives in that I want to use in my motion, but I'm with David. I think, now 7 years in the board, almost 8, and Chris could echo this, there's seasonality to this work. Seasons of life affect the nature of service. And at times you can be fully most of the grindstone in everything. And at times you've got to do the core work of the board and wish you could do more. And I would just say Kathy has been an absolute saving grace to this board because she's been nose to the grindstone since go. Involved in every committee, our superintendent search committees, our policy review committee, superintendent evaluation committee. Are you on that one? Oh, that's the one that she dodged. Every other one she's been on. So I just, it's going to be an enormous hole to try to fill. And I don't know that we'll successfully do it, but I'm excited to see your service on city council.
So we've had lovely words and I do not have a motion.
Yeah, I will follow
Okay.
that with, I move to put in your adjective and know that I mean it. Move to accept Vice Chair Kathy Keithley's letter of resignation from position 3, Zone 2 of the Gresham-Barlow School District Board of Directors effective December 31st, 2024, and declare the position vacant.
So it's been moved by Blake, seconded by Holly to accept Vice Chair Kathy Keithley's letter of resignation from position 3, Zone 2 of the Gresham-Barlow School Board of Directors effective December 31st, 2024, and declare the position vacant. Any further discussion? Yes, Holly? Sure.
Because normally when a term is vacated mid-term, we appoint, do we need to address how we're going to handle that, or because there's obviously an election coming up?
The first thing that we had to do was actually have a position vacant before we could have discussion. We can have, if we have room at the December 18th meeting to have a discussion about, because our choices are to appoint, to not appoint, and let someone run because the position expires in 2025. Appoint multiple people. No, can't do that. It's getting late. Can't do that. One person, but it is also because it is a zoned position. It does have to be someone from that area. If we were to appoint and someone was not available from that area, you still have to leave the position posting open for 60 days before you can appoint someone from anywhere else in the district. So there's lots of kind of moving parts to that. But we can have that conversation at the December 18th meeting. So, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, all right. Thank you, Kathy, for your service.
Yeah.
All right. Jeff, I don't know how you're going to follow that, but we have a technology update. Are you actually going to speak to us about this, or we're supposed to just read it? I think we're getting a presentation, right?
I am here to speak to you about this. if
All
you'd
right, all
like.
right.
Hopefully I can bring some good news before other people resign and retire. Because that feels like what this meeting has been about, but. Sarah's got my slideshow. Thank you. So talk about the board conditions, and then I'll share some exciting projects we've been working on. I think you can make a case for all of the board conditions being related to the work in technology, but especially, keeping kids safe online and while they're using technology, and making sure they have opportunities and access to high quality content and learning. All right. Infrastructure improvements. So you might remember I came to you last, June, and asked to spend over $500,000 on infrastructure. Thankfully, you approved it. And we get an 80% reimbursement from the E-rate program, which is an FCC program designed to provide fast and reliable internet to schools. So unfortunately, we didn't get the equipment until like the first week of school. We were hoping to install it over the summer, but delays pushed that back. So now we're hoping to finish that during the upcoming holiday break. We did a little bit over the Thanksgiving break, but that should be done early January. All right, next, you probably remember, I came to you last year in February and asked to buy 5,000 devices. Thankfully, you approved, and we were able to replace 5,000 aging, barely working devices used by staff and students. One of the big changes with this were a lot of our classified staff didn't have access to their own computer. They were sharing, and sometimes they were sharing a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old computer. Well, now every staff member has access to their own computer, which is great. They're very appreciative. And the students also got thousands and thousands of new Chromebooks to use in their schoolwork. This picture is actually our 2 high school interns. So they've been great. They work with us over the summer to help get the school ready for the fall. So I think in this picture, they're cleaning iPads, but they do all sorts of stuff with us in the summer. Cybersecurity is still a big concern. Still something we spend time on, making sure that we are constantly improving and constantly paying attention to new trends. So these graphs on the right, they're a little bit small and hard to read, but the top one shows the ways that bad actors gain access to systems. So you can see the most common one is credentials. So those are people accidentally sharing their credentials or using a password like password 123, which is easy to guess. So don't do that. Phishing is the next highest one. That has actually gone down over the last couple of years, the amount of cyber incidents because of phishing. So I think that's a good indication that I know our school district staff are better at spotting phishing emails, but I think that's probably a national trend is there's a lot more focus on paying attention for phishing emails and not clicking on things that you don't know what it is. The one area that has increased is vulnerabilities. So that's like people not updating a computer or software they're using, and then bad actors finding a way to use that code that's insecure to gain access to a system. So we've seen that a lot in the amount of increased updates we have to do. And sometimes people complain because they have to update their computer every 2 weeks, which is a little bit inconvenient, but it is keeping us a lot safer. We have made over the last 2 years, which has been 2 years since I talked to you all, we've made a lot of improvements in cybersecurity. I don't want to go into details right now, but if you want to, we can do an executive session on that and talk off the record. We did do a new risk assessment to kind of figure out where our most important risks to tackle in terms of cybersecurity. And we have applied for a new program that's hopefully going to give us money to pay for some of those improvements. So I will let you know how that turns out in the next couple of months. And last bit, some of our educational technology plan, which 2 years ago I brought to you our educational technology plan. And now in year 2, we have implemented a good portion of the plan. So some of the things are Go Guardian district-wide. So if you have students like mine, I think mine came home the second day after we deployed Go Guardian and said, "It's breaking all my stuff, Dad." And I said, "Well, what do you mean Go Guardian is breaking all your stuff?" He says, "I can't get to this video game. I can't get to this website. I can't do this." And I said, "So you're telling me it's working?" It's really a great tool for teachers in the classroom as well. So they can say, okay, now we're going to work on this project. So for the next 20 minutes, you can only go to these few websites. You can't just go to any website. And if they find a site that students shouldn't be on, they can block it instantly. So it's been a great tool. Feedback from teachers has been very positive. We did also create a list of recommended apps. So hopefully helping teachers find quality apps and websites that they can use instead of Googling and trying to try a bunch of different things that may or may not be good. We're trying to give them a curated list to help them find good resources. We've been increasing the amount of training opportunities to teachers. So making sure teachers know how to use the technology tools they have, whether that be Canvas, GoGuardian, the interactive flat panels that they have in their rooms. All right, two more. Maintaining hotspots for students. So we did use ESSER funds during the pandemic to provide hotspots for students that were trying to do school at home and didn't have reliable home internet. So the need for that has shrunk a lot, but we still do have students that don't have reliable internet at home, and we've been able to continue funding that for those students so they can still do their projects, their homework while they're at home. And then the last thing we're working on now, you probably know our district has a digital citizenship curriculum where we teach students how to be good digital citizens, how to interact with other people online, how to tell whether sources they're finding online are good quality or not. And what we're doing now is adding into that some cybersecurity awareness pieces. So they know how to create a good password, spot those phishing emails and other things like that. Really, it's just additional content to help prepare them for life after school. So I went really fast, but certainly I'm open to questions if you have any.
Any questions this evening? Yep.
Just what does maintaining access to hotspots for students look like? I'm just interested, curious.
Yeah, it was really about funding and making sure we had a process for it. So like I said, we were spending ESSER funds when we had ESSER funds for those. But we've been able to find a small amount of general funds to continue that. So if the family reaches out to their school and says, hey, you know, my student's not able to complete their homework because we don't have internet at home, or maybe they're homeless, we have a process for the school to say, hey, we need a hotspot here, and then we're able to deliver that to the family. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. My machine updated before the meeting started, so it's current. It just
Right.
keeps updating. So,
Good job.
all right. Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you. I believe with that, we have one last thing we have in our packet. The monthly financial report, and it was provided for us just as information. I don't know if any board members had any questions about it, but it was there for us to look at, and it was available for us. So any questions about the monthly financial report? All right, thank you. Dennis, thank you for providing that for us. Did you have a question, Kevin?
Not about the financial part, but I have a question for Dennis. So we have to-
Absolutely, yeah, no, go ahead, no, go ahead.
But it's completely unrelated.
That's okay. I'll let, just because I'm letting you do it.
What are they gonna do? Fire me?
No, that's it.
Budget committee update. Where are you on contacting the current budget committee member?
I contacted two budget committee members that are interested in continuing. I've reached out to third, not been able to get in contact, so we will start the process to get that declared vacant and posted.
That had dropped off of my radar, so we need to make sure and get that going before we have that. All right, so with that, I don't show anything else. Have I missed anything on here? I don't believe I have, no? Yes. It's.
You know what? I don't care. It is James's. And we went to recess too fast. And I didn't know that that was my only opportunity. I just wanted to thank you, James, for being a partner in this. I remember a very cold, early spring night where we knew we had a superintendent vacancy coming. And you and I talked in the parking lot, and I could just feel the steady hand that you had over this district. And how grateful I was as I got in my car to know how deep our bench was, and that we had a quarterback ready to rise. And you know, I just think you know, the steady hand moniker is the one that's come to mind for you. And that really is about captaining a ship. And it's not smooth seas that you need a steady hand in. A steady hand is when you've got waves hitting it from every side. And we've gone through waves together. And I just think you deserve such a wonderful retirement. And thank you for all that you've given to these students and to this board over the last years. We're very grateful for you.
Would anyone else like, since we did kind of go quickly? No, you can't shake no. That would be, Director Ligatich, I believe.
You know, we've had many lunches together before I got on this board. But there's one word that comes to mind anytime I think of you, and that's integrity.
While they're taking some notes there, I'll just say, I remember when you were hired for the San Barlow principalship. And I was, I think, newly on the board, and I remember hearing about it because Barlow was where I went to school a long time ago, many moons ago. And I remember hearing the comments and the things as you were being brought into that, and they were all positive, and people were excited that you were there. It was a very thorough process. I think there were a lot more people involved in making sure that was going to be a good fit, and it really was. And so I do remember that, and it's just been unwavering ever since then. So Stall, she's still writing things. All right.
I'm sure I've shared this before, but since it's my last opportunity to, when you were interim, we had to hire you as a permanent. I did advocate for doing a search, not because I didn't want you or think you wouldn't, but because it gives a person credibility to whatever. And we didn't. And when we walked out in the room and we made that announcement, and I've described this exactly the same way, the relief in the room was palpable. And that spoke to your leadership and your reputation and the respect that your colleagues had for you. So well done.
Okay. So I think we have reached the end of the meeting. This is your last, I drug it out as long as I could. We're not going to make it till 10 o'clock. So I think we're just, Kathy, we're just not going to make it any farther. We just have to end it when we end it. All right. So we're to announcements. Our next regular board work session at 6 p.m. on December 18th at the Partnership Room Center for Advanced Learning. December 21st, 2024 through January 5th, 2025 is winter break. There are no board meetings during that time. We return on January 8th, 2025 for a regular board business meeting at 7 p.m. in the Council Chambers Public Safety and Schools building. And with that, it says estimated time for adjournment no later than 9 p.m. So we are adjourned. Thank you.